Hello, and welcome to Good Grief, the podcast dedicated to demystifying and destigmatizing grief with compassion and humor. I'm Nikki. I'm an end-of-life doula and a grief coach in Columbus, Ohio. And today we are going to talk, I'm going to go there. We're going to talk about collective grief with political upheaval. Okay, so that said, trigger warning all over the place. If you are like me and you would rather go to the dentist than listen to a podcast or listen to anybody talk about politics, well, here's the thing. I'm not really going to get into politics on this episode. We'll get into it. We're just going to talk about what collective grief is like when there is a political divide, and or I will be discussing also, so again, trigger warnings, there will be discussions about mass casualty events and natural disasters and things of that nature. So trigger warnings up front. You can skip this episode. I will not be offended. So before we get into that, though, just want to remind everybody, if you want to support me in the show, you can go to patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula, and you get early access to the episodes of this show. I can talk. You'll get grief affirmations in your inbox, other bonus events throughout the month, and I will do special talkbacks with just my patrons from time to time, things like that. So please go check that out. But if you are looking for something a little more hands-on, and or you're listening to this show because you've experienced a significant loss in your life and you're just struggling to get through your grief, I have founded the Good Grief Society. We will be launching April 1st. So if you are interested in joining, please you can go to nikkithedeathdoula.com/podcast. And there's some information there on the Good Grief Society, what it is, what you get. But we will have monthly grief circles. I'm going to do every other month. We'll have some type of either workshop or webinar, some type of event with a speaker, something like that. And then there's access to a Slack channel 24/7 so that you can talk to other people who might understand grief and or other fans of this show. So if you'd like to join the Good Grief Society, please head on over to nikkithedeathdoula.com /podcast, and all the information is right there. And then lastly, super quick, if you have a burning question you've always wanted to ask me, I'm hoping to do some Q&A type episodes on this show. So I have now set up a voicemail where you can leave me a recorded message with your question and or thought, concern, whatever, and I might play it on the episode. So if you do that, that's also on my podcast page. So Nikki the Death Doula podcast, there's a link there to record a message for me. You do it right from your smartphone or your computer. And yeah, I would love to have your questions so I can do a Q&A episode at the end of the season. Okay, that's enough. Let's get into our topic today. We're going to be talking about collective grief. Specifically, this is a little topical because there's a lot going on right now within the world and the US specific. And again, guys, I am not going to get into too much politics here. I can't. I don't want to. I don't like it. It makes me feel icky. But there is a lot of grief involved in what's going on right now. So, as we all know, grief is not always just about death. And I mention that all the time on the show. Hopefully you know that already. Grief can mean a million different things. And, our textbook definition, whatever we want to call it, grief is our emotional response to loss, right? And this is any loss. This isn't just for funerals. I've done full episodes. I've actually done an episode on collective grief before, so some of this is a little bit of a repeat. Some of it is new. So you can always go back and listen to that episode as well with this one. But there's a broad term called disenfranchised grief. And this is just grief that is not necessarily societally, I'm using air quotes, recognized. And these are things like grief with divorce, grief with job loss, loss of identity, things like that we don't always recognize as grief because we in the world just seem to think grief equals death or death equals grief, vice versa. That's not always the case. So what is collective grief? Again, at its little nexus point, the definition, whatever you want to say, it's grief experienced by a group of people who may have shared an event, or a loss of one type or another. So we can talk about things like mass shootings, natural events, pandemics. I don't know if any of y'all remember, we had one of those a few years back. Uh, and then there's political upheaval as well. So, but here's the thing with this style of grief. It's real and it's valid. And right now, especially, it's really hard. There's a lot of hateful, hurtful, harmful things being said about specific groups of people on both sides. Okay, both sides, guys. I'm trying to be as neutral as I can here. Both ends are saying hateful, hurtful things about the other side, but what people are dismissing is the grief we're feeling because of this. And I personally, anecdotally, whatever, have seen in my life relationships end over politics. I've seen families break up over politics. I've seen friendships be dismissed because of different viewpoints on what's going on in the world today. And it's easy to dismiss that, to say, well, whatever, they're on that team, I'm on this team. Guys, we're all human beings. We're all one team, but they believe this, I believe this, whatever. But you still lost somebody in your life. There's still a grief with that, right? Like if you had that your best friend in the whole wide world that you called every other day and shared memes with and jokes with, and suddenly they're supporting something that you don't support or you don't believe in, and you, for whatever reason, you and that person have decided to not continue your friendship. There's a grief there. You miss them. You miss what you had. Maybe you don't miss the person because something they're saying or doing is harmful to you, or to other people, but you still miss that friendship, and that's valid. You're allowed to grieve that. And there's just so much pressure in the world to adhere or to conform to one side or the other side. And no matter what, who cares about the other side, so to speak? Because they're wrong. I'm using air quotes again. And we are right, air quotes again. And why would you grieve the loss of that? Because they're bad. They're not good people. We're saying these things about each other, guys. And here's the thing. I was just listening to another podcast the other day, and the person being interviewed was asked about things like this. And he said, here's the thing, at the end of the day, we're all, if you really look at human beings on a level, we're all mostly kind, right? We're not always kind to each other. We're not always kind to different groups, but we tend to have a kindness within us. Not everybody, not everybody, but we do have a kindness within us. We might be just kind to only certain groups, which in my opinion is not good, but we all have that ability to be kind. Okay? That's like an innate thing in us. We don't always adhere to it. We don't always stay with us. So we have griefs with these situations going on in the world, but how, like any grief, how does this show up for us, right? This can look like a million different things. And again, specifically with these collective grief, there's a lot of anxiety, right? I don't know about you, but I get a little nervous to look at the news each day and what happened in the world overnight. There's a lot of anxiety with that and dread. A lot of rage out there. There's a lot of anger out there. And anger, I've said this so many times in this podcast, anger isn't inherently bad. Anger is typically fear-based, and that's a natural response that we have. So anger is not bad, it's what we do with it. So we might be feeling a lot of anger and or just straight up rage. And some people, apathy. I mean, I'm guilty of that. There are days where I wake up and I'm like, I just don't have it in me to deal with this today. I can't care today. Right? And I'm sure you have had a moment like that as well. So obviously fatigue, burnout, it's exhausting. Being anxiety can be incredibly exhausting because your body is in that fight or flight response, whether you feel it or not. It's there. Your brain feels it. Your brain knows you're in this response. And that's exhausting. We're exhausted. We're tired, so we burn out. You can have a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, all of that. But however this is showing up for you, however this feels for you, you're not wrong. You're not broken. You're just having a response to a fractured environment. And our environment is fractured right now, right? We're all feeling it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We're all feeling this, no matter where you are within these beliefs and what's going on within the world today. Okay, so a little bit of historical context and how we see echoes of what has happened in different large mass events throughout the world, how we see that continuing to show up today. I'll start semi-recently, although I guess it's not that recent, 9/11. There's still so much of like a response to that continuing today, and now 25 years later. Is it 25? Oh my gosh. See, exactly. I guess it wasn't that recent. There are college graduates that weren't alive during 9/11, but we still have, I mean, have you been on a flight since 9/11, right? Like we still feel that, but people still have emotional responses to different religious groups because of this. 25-year ago event, people still have responses to this. And there are people I know that lost people in the towers. There are people I know that have had close people to them pass away in 9/11, either as a direct result or illness after the fact. And that's still obviously affecting them. So this is an event that is still affecting the world today. Vietnam. I know it's like for a lot of you listeners, I was not really alive until like a couple years after that, but I have a family member who fought in Vietnam. I know people personally who were there, and there's still effects. There's still people losing their lives because of illnesses from that. But there's still a lot of emotional response to that. And how long ago was that? That was prior to me being born, and I'm getting kind of old. The AIDS crisis is another big one. The biggest one I can think of that's a little more recent memory for us is COVID. We had a global pandemic. Whether you want to admit we had one or not, we did have a global pandemic. This is just straight facts, okay? We had an illness that went through the world killing millions of people, right? And we had a response to that. There was so much grief involved in that. And that's not just the direct loss of people who lost their lives due to COVID, but again, fracturing of relationships, fracturing of families because of beliefs around this, which if you sit back with a rational brain for a moment, how you can have beliefs around an actual illness is beyond me. But again, I'm really trying hard, you guys. I'm trying hard not to take sides or but my opinions leak out. But joking aside, you had this illness that existed. People died because of it. Whether you believed in it or not, it was there. It's like you can say clouds aren't real, but they're there. You can choose not to believe in the sky, but it's there. You can choose to believe the earth is flat, but it's not. I'm sorry, that one slipped out. Regardless, all these giant things have happened throughout our history, and they have echoes. They continue to cause grief going forward. And we still see a lot of that with COVID. We still see a lot of people who are anti-masking. We still see a lot of people who have very strong opinions about illness in general and how we treat our illnesses and how we seek medical care and when we do and don't seek medical care and what medical care looks like. We're still seeing a lot of that because of that traumatic loss. So let's talk about why this is so difficult, why this is hurting us so hard right now in this moment as of recording and as of publishing this in 2026. First of all, I talked about fatigue, right? Crisis fatigue is a real thing. It's exhausting to wake up to a new thing every day, a new world event every day, every other day, whatever. It's exhausting. Our culture already, without any of this, just if you hone it down to death loss, our culture does not always give us permission to grieve the way we need to. We avoid it. We don't talk about it. We look at people weird for grieving, quote unquote, too long, right? We look at people who are grieving disenfranchised griefs that are not societally recognized. We think, wow, what's wrong with them? We're just not given permission to grieve. And especially when it comes to situations like political upheaval within the world, we're just not given permission to be upset about that. We can be angry. Anger's okay, right? Fear is okay. But sadness, grief, no, it's not okay. And then if you go to the other extreme, there's a whole world of toxic positivity out there. I talk about this a lot with grief support. I talk about it a lot in my grief groups. There's a lot of toxic positivity, like just wish it away, basically. Just smile and go for a walk and ignore it. And that's not how this works. You can choose to be happy. Yes, you can choose to respond to things in different ways than how you do respond to them, but we don't always choose our emotional response to things. We feel sad sometimes, and that's okay. You're not wrong and you're not broken. And social media burnout. Anybody, I mentioned it several times on this show, I got rid of most of my social media accounts. They're still there, but I don't use them anymore. I've just recently had to look something up in a group on Facebook. I haven't logged into my Facebook in a minute. And wow, scrolling through that feed was interesting. It was like fear, anger, hate, fear, add, AI bullcrap. Like, that's all I saw. I didn't see not a single post of, I took my kids to the zoo today. Look at these great pictures with the elephants. I didn't see a single post of that. And I didn't scroll very long because I was done. So that's really kicking us in the butt right now. We used to use our social media to support each other and to have fun and to share things. And now we're just using it as a tool to spread more toxicity, so to speak. And lastly, we don't do shared rituals as much. And I could talk all day about, our lack of rituals with death loss in general. There's a lot to that. Again, this is a whole other subject matter, but we don't do shared rituals like we used to. We can, and we have, and I've seen a lot. And I'm not just talking about protests, but I have seen some beautiful groups putting out calls. They're doing group prayers, group meditations, just groups of people getting together to grieve a little bit over this. But man, are those few and far between. I would love to see more of that. But these are things we just don't have. Okay, Nikki, this is all sour and sad, and now I'm depressed and angry and hurt. What do I do about all this? Okay. Well, first and foremost, here's how we can work with this type of grief. Number one, and I will say this with any type of grief or loss, understand that you are grieving. I name it to tame it. It's one of my little rhymes I like to use. Admit it to yourself and to the world. I'm grieving right now. I'm grieving hard. I'm having an emotional response to what's going on. Just recognizing and saying, I am grieving. Step one. And get specific about it. What specifically have I lost in this? I've lost a sense of community. I've lost a family member. I've lost a friend. I've lost my sense of identity. What have I specifically lost? And making those little micro acknowledgements that I have lost, even this little thing. I've lost the ability to go to Facebook and enjoy myself for a few minutes. Right? That's a small acknowledgement. I've lost that. I used to like going and scrolling through and looking at my friends' vacation photos and photos of their kids. And that's just not there anymore. It's AI slop and a lot of ads and fear-mongering. And that's a little micro grief I have, and it makes me sad. So next, again, another one of my favorite rhymes, you got to feel it to heal it, right? You have to go through the process. You have to feel the grief. You can't push it off. You can't ignore it. Once you've admitted, all right, I'm grieving, allow yourself to feel those feelings, whatever they might be. And see if you can find some of those groups that are doing either just some type of group activity, whether it's a prayer, a Bible study, if that's your thing, a meditation group. Find some groups that are getting together to talk about these things and or to just be in each other's company. If you feel like it, go to a protest. If that's your thing, again, either side, go to a protest. If you go to a protest, Please be peaceful, okay? Do not antagonize. Do not start fights. Do not bring weapons. You're allowed to protest. That's a beautiful right we have in America to have free speech. Use it wisely, okay? Sorry, get down off my soapbox now. We have to feel our feelings. We can't ignore them. We have to dive into them. I talk about this in my journaling workshop too, about having those moments where you have to feel the ick and just letting it go. Just feel as awful as you want to feel for a period of time. Lean into it a little bit and you will feel so much better on the other side. Okay. If you need a little help with that, please reach out to me. Let me know. This is something I do with my clients. Okay. And then if you feel so inclined, another great thing you can do to help you with your grief is channel it into some type of action. Volunteer somewhere. Reach out to a neighbor who you think might be suffering or might have been hurt or harmed. Reach out to them. How can I help you? Can I get some groceries with you? Can I just sit with you? Do you want to talk about it? Donate to an organization that you feel strongly about. And make art, sing, write. I do, again, I have whole workshops on journaling and how to write through our grief. But join a group that might be making art together. Do something physical and tangible with your grief. I love that. I'm not an artist. I can't draw. I can't paint. I'm terrible at this. I could barely write a sentence and have it be legible. But I can speak poetry, whatever. Find something, a creative outlet that might be good for you, that you might appreciate or enjoy. And here's the thing, guys, you can suck at it. Like I just said, I'm a terrible artist. I've gone to some group painting things, and yeah, what I made was awful, but I had fun doing it. It was a great outlet. You can suck at art. It's okay. You have my permission. And lastly, the easiest, simplest thing you can do is vote. Whichever side you choose to go to, whichever thing you vote for is your choice. Make sure you're voting the way you strongly believe, though. Okay? Don't let anybody press you into something you don't fully believe in. So vote. That's the simplest thing you can do. It's our, right within the United States to vote. So go do that. Or if you live in a place that has that, make your voice known that way. You can also call senators. There's a great app I've been hearing about called 5 Questions, I think it's called. And you download it on your phone and immediately you put in your address and it gives you all your representatives and their phone numbers. It'll even give you templates of what you can say to them when you call. Fantastic. So try that too. Okay? Okay. Now, here's the thing with all of this. One little cap off to this whole conversation. If you are grieving right now, if you can recognize that you are grieving because of what is happening, the only reason you grieve is because you care. And that's a beautiful thing. You love the people in your life. You love where you live. You love the things, and you grieve because you love those things. You wouldn't grieve anything if you didn't love it, right? So you grieve because you care. Let this be proof and acknowledgement that your heart is working. Your soul is working, okay? Grief can be beautiful and sacred. Let it move you. And together, we can hold each other and we can heal. I promise. Okay? Whew. Okay. Just remember, you're not alone. You're safe. You're held. Okay. So we are now at the end of my episode. So you know what time it is. It's time for the Death Deck. Woo. Okay. I'm going to shuffle the cards up here. Look how big this deck of cards is. It's huge. That's okay. Lots to choose from. And yet somehow I end up pulling the same 10 all the time. I've got it facing you all. Pull one out of the middle. All right. Ooh, I like this one. Okay. I think writing my own obituary is A, helpful. Nobody knows me like I do. B, conceited. Let my loved ones decide what to say. Or C, morbid. Why on earth would I do that? Well, I'm not going to say C. I always encourage this in my death planning workshop to write your own and change it. You don't have to keep it. Change it. Write it now. You never know. None of us are guaranteed tomorrow, right? I didn't realize I'd be writing my mom's obituary a few months ago, but here I am. And I had to do that. That was something I actually really wanted to do with her at some point, was sit down and like have us write it together. But alas, here we were. So that's a beautiful gift you can give your family members. Write your own obituary. If you're really not comfortable with it, that's okay. There's templates out there. I will help you write it if you want me to. It's another service I provide as a death doula, is help people write their obituaries. So I think it's wonderful, and I would like to know what you think. So if you have written your own obituary, I would like to hear about it. You can reach out to me through my website, nikkithedeathdoula.com. If you go to the podcast tab, you can get information on this show, but there's a contact tab too. You can always reach out to me there. And or on my Substack too. Find me over on Substack, Nikki the Death Doula. Yeah, thank you so much. If you enjoyed the show, please leave me a rating and review. It's the quickest, simplest thing you can do to help me kind of boost up in the algorithm so more people can find me and more people can feel less alone in their grief. So quickest thing you can do, just do that. If you want to support me more, if you really enjoy this show, you can go to patreon.com/NikkiTheDeathDoula. And as always, I use all the money I receive from my Patreon to provide pro bono work for those who cannot afford my services. I do have a couple clients I'm working with off and on current right now who I'm providing my work pro bono for them. And that's because of my patrons. If you join, I will give you a shout out on the show too. So, all right, that is all. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Also, remember, if you are interested in joining the Good Grief Society, you can do that on my website as well. But thank you all so much again for tuning in. And remember, as always, your grief is yours, your feelings are valid, and grief doesn't always have to suck. Good Grief with Nikki the Death Doula is produced by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC in Columbus, Ohio. Nikki the Death Doula LLC is for consulting, education, emotional support, and guidance, and is no way considered a funeral establishment or licensed mental health establishment. Scripts, editing, sound design, literally everything with this podcast is done solely by Nikki Smith of Nikki the Death Doula LLC, with the exception of the music. The music is Cheery Monday by Kevin MacLeod. Licensing information can be found at filmmusic.io.